Welcome to the Awkward Zoo. I'm Randy, and this is Just Listen Podcast. And we are wrapping up on the series True on this Senses series. We're not wrapping up True on this. We're wrapping up this mini series of just going through eating experience and the senses that you experience. And we're wrapping it up today with the final sense of taste. And we have a flip the script where we're going to go to talk about, it's going to be a short one, but we're going to talk about Toy Story. But first, updates, nothing new so far. Been doing what I've been doing each week. Food, the next video will probably be in February, which is coming up soon. Probably the first week of February. I did two in a row because the first video was age restricted. So I did two. I did one at the week after, but then the next one will probably post beginning of February. Yeah, I think that's it. Nothing else is new. So yeah, let's get to it. To chew on this. So, chew on this. We're talking about taste, and so, originally there's thought to be four tastes: is bitter, salt, sour, sweet, and then later on they added umami, which was discovered in Japan. It's a Japanese word, and then most recently they also detected that your tongue can detect fat. It's not, like, in my head I'm thinking it's like more of a sensation, like fat coats your tongue, you can feel it. But recent study shows that your tongue can detect kind of fattiness, can detect something in that composes fatty stuff. So before we get any started, I got this information from this book. If you're on video, if you're on audio, this is The Science of Cooking. Every question's answered to perfect your cooking. This is by Dr. Stuart Fairmont. I highly recommend it if you're into cooking and science of like how things work. It's an interesting book, and it's a really good book. It kind of breaks down why things happen and how to cook things and cook better with knowledge. And so I recommend it, book. It's really good. So the first part is it talks about taste, and so that's where I got this from. I also got some information from NCBI's How Does Our Sense of Taste Work? Also found some information on there, and yeah, so the book talks about how fatty is a recent discovery, and then a lot of other articles will bring this up, like there's research been found on this. So let's break it down. So salt. So salt, what it's detecting from salt is sodium, which is common in salt because salt is sodium chloride. But specifically triggers the saltiness is sodium. Sour detects acids. Vitamin C has a ascorbic acid, and generally is probably used to tell you if something has vitamin C or something is rancid, which is why fermented food is high in acid, and my body kind of rejects it because it thinks it's rancid. uh, which is why I don't really like fermented food unless it's cooked or like other things. It's weird. My body reacts weird to fermented food. Um, but yeah, but I'm guessing that's probably the reason why it takes that sourness and thinks it's bad. Um, bitter. Bitter usually means is potentially harmful or toxic. Um, we'll talk about bitterness a little bit later as we go into another article that I read. Um, but yeah, but generally, bitter was there to tell you that this is probably toxic or is not good for you. Um, um, and so that's what bitter was there for. And then sweet, obviously, it detects sugars, and generally, sugar is a ready source of energy. Specifically, your brain uses glucose, and then your body like needs sugar for energy, right? And then fatty, like I said, is recent discovery. It's detecting the fat molecules, and it's kind of telling you like this is a rich source of energy because energy, if it's not expended, is stored as fat, and so fatty foods. This is packed with energy. It takes time to break down, but you got the energy there. Uh, and then I don't know why I had that as the fifth one, but then you have umami. If you don't know what umami is kind of the savory. Is to denote savoriness. And it is a Japanese term because it was discovered by a researcher around 1910, and he was trying to describe this soup, which is a special soup that is made with dashi seaweed, and seaweed has umami in it, and he was trying to explain this taste that he got from this soup, and he found it and he called it umami. And this is triggered by, or is detected, stimulated by glutamate, which is an amino acid, and it also can be triggered by aspartic, which is also an amino acid. And amino acids make up proteins, and so obviously the proteins will give you savoriness. So things that have glutamate, mushrooms, seaweeds, beef, pork, right? Proteins. Raw oysters have umami. This is written in the book, why people eat raw oysters. Because raw oysters have that impact of umami, but when cooked, the proteins kind of wrap around the umami flavor, so you don't get when oysters are cooked, you don't get the umami flavor, you don't get the umami impact because the proteins kind of cover and mask it. But then for those proteins to unravel, the oyster's overcooked by that time to get that flavor, and so they're eaten raw to get that impact of umami. That was just something interesting that I read in the book. But then yeah, you know what else is just an umami bomb impact is MSG, which stands for monosodium glutamate, which like is just glutamate. So that's just the umami bomb right there, because umami is detected by glutamate. MSG is just a seasoning, so take it or leave it. I don't really have any strong opinions about it, but it's a seasoning, so you use it or don't. It's up to you. So yeah, I read this article by Wired, the deliciously surprising science of taste, and it talks about how the book talks about this too. How before there used to be a tongue map where specific regions detect a different taste, which is wrong. Wrong. Specific reasons don't detect specific tastes. The one thing from this is true is that the edges of your tongue are more sensitive than the middle. But there's no specific regions, and that tongue map only has the first four. It doesn't have umami, it doesn't have fatty, which is and so is just wrong. And this just came from a study done by a German scientist, and who found that sense is more sensitive towards the edges than the center, and then later people added onto it and kind of like put taste in regions and mapped out the tongue, which is all wrong. Um, um, but your taste buds, they have so what you see is the palpulae, and it has about 50 to 100 receptor cells in it. Your taste buds are inside the are like, I don't know how to explain this. Like your taste buds are like, I guess, inside the palpulae, or like in like a section where there's like a pocket, and is where the taste bud is. So, like I said, bitter was a way to detect potentially harmful things, but yet people enjoy like bitter stuff, like teas, coffee, beer, air, right? And so, oh, how so this kind of shows how the tongue and like how people changed. In babies and children, they are particularly sensitive to bitterness, which kind of explains why kids don't really like vegetables, because the bitterness is very pronounced, because they are more sensitive to bitterness. And so they will naturally not like vegetables which tend to be bitter, like broccoli, asparagus, artichokes, and stuff like that. Like lettuce, like leaves, are tend to be on the bitter side, right? Right, and so yeah, so children are naturally not gonna like vegetables, um, to begin with, because they're just hypersensitive to bitter. Uh, as well as super tasters. Ears are sensitive to taste because they have more taste buds. And so they're going to be sensitive to bitter foods and bitterness, as as well, as as they grow up. And also, this kind of goes back to like like used to bitterness was a sign of toxicity, like potentially harmful. It could be toxic. Don't eat it. But yet you can basically over time, we begin to associate that with things that are enjoyable, or things that are like coffee, teas, teas. Um, it can be like an enjoyable situation, right? You're sitting together talking with one another, right, or beer, or you could associate with what those drinks have, like caffeine. Not You're not so much worried about the bitterness. Is your body wants the caffeine, or you're not so worried about the bitterness. You want the alcohol. Um, and same thing with chocolate, right? It's not so much of the bitterness, it's but the sweetness, or what else you can get out from it, and enjoyment from it. Which, by the way, I do like really bitter chocolate. Um, I believe I can go up to like 80. 90, 80, 90%. It and chocolate. 100% is absolutely gross. Uh, I don't think anybody can eat 100% chocolate. Uh, yeah, that 100% is absolutely gross. 95 is pretty up there as well, but 80 for me is like good. Uh, like a good dark kind of bitter chocolate that I can just readily eat. 90 is pushing it a bit, but 100% is definitely, if you can do 100% chocolate, like unsweetened 100% chocolate, that's you can't really taste much bitterness. Okay, I digress. As the article also mentions in animal evolutions, and since we are what is it, omnivores, and so we eat basically everything, plants and uh, meat, and so we can basically taste a lot of varied things. But carnivores, since they don't eat plants and or foods, they have no need for taste of like sweetness. Yes, because their diet is umami stuff. Right, their diet is mostly proteins and stuff which aren't sweet. um, and so the article mentions cats don't have the ability to taste sweetness. um, and if they this is what they mentioned, like cats can't taste sweet. And if you give it ice cream, it's not eating the ice cream because it's sweet, it's eating it because it's something else. It may be because it's creamy, the fat in it, as well as it's something cold. Uh, but they're not detecting any sort of sweetness from it. Um, the article also talks about cilantro, the contested cilantro. Some people have the gene where cilantro tastes like sip, and some people don't. And cilantro is a good herb, but for me, like cilantro doesn't taste like soap. But I had other vegetables, um, leafy greens that do to me taste like soap, which means I have some other taste bud receptor issues uh, that like give me the perception of soap. Um, but yeah, cilantro doesn't taste like soap to me. But like, there's this one Korean. I don't know. My my aunt has a farm and gave us some vegetables, and my mom made cooked with it, and then when I ate it, it tastes like soap. Uh, I don't know what it is because I don't. They said it in Korean, so I don't know exactly what it is, but like that straight up tastes like soap. um, but cilantro, I'm perfectly fine with cilantro though, which is weird. Uh, but yeah, um, continuing on, you might be wondering after all of this, um, where spicy. Um, Spicy is not a taste. Spicy is more of a pain signal. It's a pain receptor. It's not a taste. It doesn't stimulate. It doesn't trigger anything. It's more of your tongue telling you it's on fire. which is why you get that burning hot sensation, is because spicy is basically setting your mouth on fire. It's releasing pain signals those in the nerves, and this is caused by capsaicin, it, which is commonly found in the seeds of peppers, and you can get extracts and other things. But yeah, so spicy is not a taste; it's a more of a reaction, and which is why fatty things that are fatty are good in helping nullify the effect, because the fat kind of coats the tongue and the receptors, and so they're not like firing off on all cylinders. Which is why milk is good, because milk fat, half and half is a little bit better because it has more fat, but you're not drinking um, like heavy cream or anything. Straight up, half and half is a bit more doable. But yeah, that's why milk works, because of the fat content in milk. It helps to coat the tongue, lessen the effect, and so that's taste. And wrapping it up, we're going to head on to flip the script. So today's flip the script, we're talking about Pixar's Toy Story. And so what we're going to be talking about, we're basically going to be talking about all the movies, particularly 1 through 3. 1 through 3, what we can get from it is Andy, and Woody, the relationship between Andy and Woody. Woody is one of the main characters in all the films. And Woody, what we can look at Woody is Woody's faithfulness. Is that Woody is faithful to the end, and to Andy in particular, 1 through 3, he's always seen as to return to Woody at all cost and no matter what. And we see this kind of faithfulness, this loyalty, and this bond, and we can see this, and this correlates to the Bible. In the terms of friendship and bond, you have the story of David and Jonathan, right? Two great friends, and who are faithful to one another and stick to one another, right? Even though Jonathan and his father Saul was the king, and he hated David and wanted to kill him, Jonathan stayed faithful and a true friend to David, and helped him a lot in kind of escaping his father's wrath. And then, but more importantly, we see his unending faithfulness, that he is faithful to the end, and that is a quality of God, that God is faithful, and and he will never fail, right? Just as Woody always chased after Andy and was always returned to him and is always there for him, God is faithful and true, and he is always there for you, even though it may seem like in the hardest of times, or it seems like he's not there. God is watching. God is there, and he's able to come and pull through. And then in Toy Story 4, it kind of in the Toy Story 3, Andy gives up Woody to Bonnie, and in Toy Story 4, or Woody went from being leader to now insignificant, and unrelatable to Bonnie, and so he kind of felt out of place. And he felt lost, and in Toy Story 4, he towards the end eventually he becomes a lost toy, right? But in doing so, oh, he allows, because he lived such a fulfilled life, like he's okay with that. But then but then he finds other lost toys and gives them a home because he has experienced um, great love and affection. He shows it to others, and allows them and finds them a place where they can find uh, love that he has and the experience that he had. He gives them an opportunity. And so in Toy Story 4 is more of more a comparison to us, as in First John on 4:19 says, "We love because He first loved us." Right, as Christians, is we have experienced the love of God. We have experienced His forgiveness, mercy, and love from God. Now in return, we show that love onto others, and we help find the lost and bring them and show them to the one true God. And so, in Toy Story 4 is more of a reminder of us as Christians of our role. Well, as we've been loved by a loving Father and God, and now is our turn to go and find the lost toys and bring them and show them the Father, and how He loves, and so that they too can experience here's that same love as well as the love. And so that's flip the script and just kind of the Toy Story in general in the broader aspect and broader picture. It kind of exemplifies God's faithfulness, God's love, as well as kind of friendship and loyalty to our role as Christians is to go seek the lost and point them to loving Father. And so let's wrap things up. So we talked about taste, wrapping up the senses. So my question to you is: does cilantro taste like soap? Yeah. So does cilantro taste like soap? And what do you think about Toy Story? Uh, as always with Flip the Script, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Uh, I want to hear from you or read from you, comments as always. And yeah, I believe the next chew on this, we're gonna go into another kind of series of episodes, and then yeah, flip the script is always, I don't know right now, it's whatever comes into mind. But yeah, so that's it. As always, thank you for watching, or thank you for listening if you're on the podcast, as to whether it is Apple Podcast or Anchor, which is the hosting site. Thank you as always. You are appreciated, and I hope you have a jelly day. Bye.